But welcome, readers, to another episode of the Bougie Book Pod. I'm Tara.
And I'm Kira.
And we are here today to talk about The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager.
That's how I say it.
Okay. So we were just talking about it because we just couldn't stop yapping. The House Across the Lake is a twisty psychological thriller with a chilling supernatural edge. It follows Casey Fletcher, a grief-stricken actress who retreats to her lake house and becomes obsessed with spying on the glamorous couple across the water. When the wife disappears, Casey suspects foul play, but what starts as a domestic suspense spirals into something far darker. With secrets submerged beneath the surface, both literal and emotional, this is a story about grief, obsession, probably also, what's that called? I don't know why I can't think. Addiction. Oh my gosh. I couldn't think of the word addiction. And a haunting past that refuses to stay buried.
Yeah, so this thing, what's important to know, which most of you obviously know, we spoil everything we read, so we're assuming you've read it.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with this is there are, 5 houses on this lake?
I think so.
It's very small.
Very tiny, secluded,
very secluded.
Very, again, I can't think of my words, but it's just only the top tier people kind of have this spot.
And so house-wise, you have a lot of summer people. You have one guy, I can't think of his last name, but his first name's Eli, and he was a writer. Yeah, he's going through his Ernest Hemingway thing. I think
yes.
He's a writer, so he's there full time. Casey, who doesn't normally stay there, it's their family's house, but she gets shipped off by her mom to get her life together. And then you have across from her a house that was purchased by Catherine. Oh my God, what's Catherine's husband's name?
Tom.
Catherine and Tom. Catherine being a supermodel, old supermodel. I can't really.
A former supermodel.
Yeah, I had a hard time telling. And then Tom, who is into tech, he's developed an app, and they've just bought this house, which I find very interesting. On such a small lake, that it sounds like there's a lot of recreational activity other than swim, kayak, fish.
It's really about privacy.
Yes.
Just being secluded and having a very private life.
And then you have 2 other houses that are owned by essentially people who use it in the summer, and they're what you think is vacant. You learn someone is actually staying in one and at one point, but so that's super secluded. Casey doesn't even have a car. No one's letting her drive. So,
and this is up east in Vermont.
Yes.
Northeast in Vermont.
You are at the lake,
yeah,
unless she's having a flashback the entire time. So and I think Riley does a really good, I'm just gonna call him Riley. Riley does a really good job at, I could picture it very well.
Absolutely.
Very, very well.
Yeah, they describe Casey's family home as your typical cabin in the woods, huge, but I'm thinking logs and very rustic looking. And then when she describes Catherine's home, it's they've updated it with a lot of glass, a lot of modern technology, very sleek. And she's kind of looking at it oh, geez, it's kind of making our house look a little frumpy in comparison.
And I don't know about the other houses, but I kind of pictured Catherine's house was the only one that was updated.
Yeah.
In my head, everyone else was it was a summer place from the from a while ago.
Just your typical lake house. Rustic looking places. That's how I was imagining it and picturing it. And I was picturing it all surrounded by trees, super private, very even in between the houses, there's a lot of trees and woods separating them.
So diving into Casey a little bit before we go into the plot, because she's really important to understand. She's an actress, she sounds like she's done musicals, plays, movies, even. I don't really know if they touch on TV shows.
Yeah, she did. She had a TV show. I don't know if it lasted very long, but she was on. She had a stint on a TV show.
Her mom is a well-known
Broadway actress.
And Casey ends up marrying Len, who is a writer, correct?
I think he was a writer and a producer
somewhere in there. So he's in the industry as well, and I think they get married in their early 30s. I think because at one point she mentioned she's like 35-ish,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in there. So it makes you think they get married in their like early 30s, they meet in their 30s, and they decide to go spend, I think, a whole summer at the lake.
Yeah.
And one morning, she wakes up, her husband Len is not there. Okay, he goes fishing early in the morning, like you got to get out early. And she, little does she know that Len has fallen into the water, drowned. The boat's out there, and his body ends up washing up a few days later, I believe.
I can't remember if it was a few days later or like later that night because everybody was looking for him. The
Yes.
neighbor Eli, he came over. It seems like a very tight knit community,
Yes.
right? Everybody knows everybody.
And I find it very interesting that they do love this lake so much because, like, I'm just a spoiled brat coming from like beautiful, clear lakes, but they describe this lake as like, put your hand too far down, you don't see it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very hard for them to find Len, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
it's a gross, that's how I pictured it, like a green,
Mm-hmm.
and they're swimming in it. I don't know. Whatever's down there is down there, and it's, you don't know about it. It's creepy. I don't like that. I could not do it.
I've swam in green lakes, and it's actually like pretty, like a pretty green. I can't describe it.
Which is ironic because this lake is lake green.
Yeah, but it's a pretty green. It's like almost like an aqua green.
Okay.
And I've been in the lakes in Virginia, and it is really gorgeous. And so because I've had that experience and I've seen those houses around there, I get that serenity feeling of being there, even though it may not be crystal clear, beautiful. There's very like peacefulness about it that you can kind of handle the greenness.
So anyway, after that, naturally, Casey has a lot to process.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is she just turns to alcohol.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty bad. And with her being a well-known actress in the city and things like that, paparazzi spots her. She's got a couple bad things. And her mom is like, you need to get your life together. And this is what I don't get. I understand the seclusion.
Yeah.
His mom sends her to the cabin, to the place where he died.
Yeah. Thinking that's where you're going to get over it.
And like, you don't get like super motherly vibes from her mom, but that one I was just like, is this like extreme therapy where they're like, hey, you're scared of a spider, so we're gonna make you like hang out with a spider?
The way I felt was, it was less about helping her and more about getting her out of the public eye and not through a rehab place, because that would have been like an admission of her problems and maybe somehow look bad to the public. I think the mom just wanted her,
there's got to be some
out of the way. At some point in the book, she does say to her mom, like, why did you think this was a good place for me to be? And the mom is like, you have to face it. So maybe it's more like a tough love thing, but I really felt it was more like a just get out of the public eye for a while. Because again, mom is an actress, and her what is that? Like, her appearance means a lot to her.
So she's there. And then do you want to talk about her meeting Catherine? Because that's
so
a key point.
So we start with Casey on her like porch, it seems like, and she's, knocking back some whiskey as she does every morning.
I would say at like 10 or 11 probably by the time she got up.
She drinks her coffee first. She always makes a point to say like she starts with some coffee. But then, as soon as she finishes that cup, it's time for whiskey. So she's going to sit down with her whiskey, and I can't remember if she hears or she sees.
I think she
sees something in the water, and it's a little like, it's like, what in the world is that? And she immediately recognizes it's like somebody is floating in the water, possibly drowning. And of course now she's got PTSD from her husband, but then she's thinking, well, maybe I can save somebody. So she goes in, and what's interesting to note here is that when she gets to this woman's body, and it ends up being Catherine, she is convinced this woman is dead. She's not breathing. She's not like responsive.
Like, she describes it as like blue.
Yeah, like she was thinking, oh my God, it's too late. And now she's kind of like, and I was imagining like, you want to save someone's body, but then once you realize that they're probably dead, the idea of touching, I don't know, that's horrible, right? But I was just like, I would not want to touch a dead body.
And it's cold because it's like October or something.
Something like that. And getting close to wintertime. And so she's like, well, I'm going to pull her, and she drags her and gets her into the boat. And it's once she's in the boat, suddenly Catherine spurts to life and starts breathing and sputtering up water, and all of a sudden her color is coming back.
Yes. And it was not like, I personally, thankfully, have never seen someone come to it after like having a lot of water ingested, but the way Catherine like comes to it, and then she's just like, I don't know what she says to her, but it was just such a like, oh, what happened? Like,
yeah, like what happened?
It was
and
Casey
so
goes, weird.
I think you drowned.
I was like,
it's a very strange incident. And then Casey gives her a blanket, and she wraps her in a blanket, and they go back to her house. And immediately I would be thinking, well, if you've ingested all this water, your face was blue, perhaps we should go to a hospital.
Correct.
But none of that happens. It's just
Casey can't drive. She has no car.
Yeah, so she just goes back to the house, and they hang out and they chat for a while before Catherine goes home. It's very strange. Catherine goes home, takes the blanket, whatever, thanks her for saving her life. And Casey goes back to her whiskey on the porch. And then she notices a pair of binoculars. And she remembers that her husband bought them for some bird watching or whatever. So she picks them up and looks through them and notices that they're actually quite good. And she can see clear into Catherine's house across the lake. Like, I mean, so clear that she can go from room to room, see what's inside.
Like a dollhouse.
Yes.
Like how when you look at a dollhouse, you see all the rooms. Like, that's how I picture
Yes. So she's, again, another one of these glass houses, right? Where you can just see into everything. And she becomes kind of obsessive with looking at their house and watching them. And this is where, and I brought it up earlier, it started to remind me of Rear Window, of that movie by Alfred Hitchcock, where the guy was in a wheelchair and he's bored, essentially, right? And he's looking at all these apartments. And so what she notices is that there seems to be something off between Tom and Catherine. In terms of like, they're not very lovey, or like there just seems to be some, I don't know, barrier between them, where Tom seems kind of like he's watching her when she's acting in a way where she's checking to see if he's watching her.
Not how you'd act in your own home.
No, they seem uncomfortable with each other, and like they're both hiding something in some sort of way. So because of that, Casey has nothing else to do but sit and think about her dead husband and her alcoholism. And so now naturally, I think it's naturally, she was like, well, I'm going to pay attention to this instead of anything else.
And here's the thing. She doesn't do anything except drink there. Yeah. She talks about turning on the TV like once. There are certain areas of the house she doesn't want to go to because of memories. She doesn't talk about picking up a book and reading. She, like, nothing. Cooking,
exercising, going on the lake, like nothing.
She just sits there.
She sits there and she drinks.
So naturally. And then it doesn't help that like Catherine and Tom do come over to the house and like thank her, give the blanket back. Is Eli there? Eli has dropped off groceries.
Yes.
They've had dinner. And
Eli Catherine seems like just this great neighbor. He's also supplied her with a bunch of alcohol, despite her mom saying like, no drinking. But Eli he seems almost like a fatherly figure in terms of like, not the best dad, but he is keeping an eye on her. He's there. And so he's there having dinner with Casey. They have like this deal, like when he brings stuff, she cooks dinner for him. And that's when Tom and Catherine come over. And then Tom comes over with these two like $5,000 bottle of wine.
And you're immediately like, Tom's a douche because he's not like, oh, I just brought over some wine. And like Casey looks it up and it's like, oh, this is expensive. He's like, flaunts how expensive it is. And Catherine does make a comment, something about like Tom having to like, look at this. Yeah,
because he was like, because it's $5,000, you have to drink it slowly. And Catherine just like chugs it to be like, bitch.
It. So like Tom opens it, pours some for her, and Casey drinks it, and then Catherine does slug hers back. Yeah. And then a weird thing happens is Catherine basically is like, not like passes out, but she completely just loses it and falls.
Yeah, she gets suspiciously super drunk super fast. Yes. And that ties back to when she was saved from drowning. She did make a comment to Casey about how, like, 1 minute she was swimming and fine, and then the next she blacks out.
Yeah,
and
she felt very weak.
And then she'd been feeling this way lately, like she doesn't feel like herself, like suddenly, like she just is losing her abilities for things and wondering if there's something wrong with her.
So after that, Catherine reaches out to her. You got to think, like, she's probably lonely, and
Yeah.
they have coffee together a couple times. It's very casual. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, we're BFFs.
Yeah.
And it is Catherine that reaches out to Casey. She calls her, I believe.
Yes, and that's interesting because Casey's like, how did she get my number?
Yeah.
And they never bring it up. They never bring it up.
But then it's also like, you've got a question. We have is our narrator that reliable? Because she is
drunk all the time.
Constantly drunk. So you're like, well.
Yeah, like maybe she gave her number. It's just all sorts of
Yeah.
things that just aren't matching up. And then at some point before this, when they're having their little dinner wine together, Eli tells this like old like horror story that like I guess they would tell the kids at the lake about how like the lake is haunted and that it carries the souls of the dead, and that like there are certain times where you shouldn't go swimming, like you never go swimming in the daytime or something like that. Instead of, it was like the opposite of what you'd think. So not to go swimming in the daytime because that's when the souls can see you or like take you or something silly like that.
And it's like Catherine and Tom are like interested in it, and so he's like telling it, and then but in my head it's like, you got Casey right there.
Exactly. And she does like freak out and curses out. And she's like, can we not talk about this? Like, my husband just died in the lake. And they're all like, oh
right.
Sorry. I know. It was just like poor taste.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
So honestly, here's my thing. You get to a certain section where Riley does have you go a couple, like every once in a while you are going fast forwarding in time, I should say.
Yeah.
And there are a couple chapters where you have who you believe is Casey, obviously, speaking to a man. They don't ever say who it is.
No, but I think in the beginning I was thinking it was Tom.
Yeah, and like interrogating him, like, oh, I'll cut you, blah, blah, blah. Like that like shit hits a fan at some point, and Casey intervenes because you have these weird chapters that you're just kind of like, okay. Anyway,
what's happening? Yeah.
But then I just feel like you kind of cruise through the middle, and it's just like Casey drinks, Casey watches them, Casey gets paranoid, and then you enter a new character, Boone. He gives you a little something in the middle.
Yeah.
And he's like a handyman guy, a local, who happens to be working on the house next door, and the family's like, you can stay there for a while. And Boone is a recovering alcoholic, so great neighbor for Casey.
Yeah.
Offers to play Monopoly if she's ever bored. Casey's like, hell no.
Absolutely not.
She does know how attractive he is naturally. And he just, I didn't really get the like vibe that he was gonna be a creepy guy.
Same. I was hoping he'd be a good influence.
Yeah.
But then Eli was like, stay away from him. You will be a bad influence on him.
Yes.
And then Eli tells her he just lost his wife maybe about a year ago or so.
Yeah.
He had some troubles. He's like getting on the up and up again, and so leave him alone.
Yeah, so they
Casey's kind of like, screw you, but Eli's like, but you're not ready for being around someone who is in recovery.
And that's you do the math at one point, and it's like he started drinking around when his wife died.
Yeah.
And like, so they just kind of mirror each other, and he's like, please don't mess up his life.
Yes, exactly.
He's got it under control.
Exactly.
But the interesting thing is like, Boone is there, and he also kind of starts to pick up on like Tom and Catherine are weird.
Yes. So
there's some weird things.
There's weird things happening between them. Like the way they interact with each other is weird. And so Casey, of course, watching Catherine. And by the way, I think before she witnesses this, Catherine's over for coffee and notices the binoculars and makes a comment of like, oh, you could see my house. And you kind of get the feeling that Catherine knows.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is our unreliable narrator being paranoid, but like you get the sense that Catherine knows that she's been watching her.
Yes. Which
is kind of weird. I'm not sure why she wouldn't just say it out, right? Because I would be like, why are you watching?
And then I don't know if it's the same time she's there. Catherine says something about Tom needs her money.
Oh, that's right.
Tom needs her because his app is not bringing in the money.
Yeah.
And she was like, it was basically like he'd kill me before he'd divorce me.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, because they were talking about their marriages, and she was basically saying how unhappy she is, but that like he'd rather kill me than see a divorce.
Which I find very interesting because like I could be sober as a snail and someone could say something and then I go to retell it like 2 hours later and I'm like, am I saying this right? Like, is this exactly how they worded it?
Yeah.
But my God, does she ingrain that into her brain?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how?
Well,
she like remembers it word for word. And I guess if someone says something that alarming.
Yes. So, yes, just last night, I had a friend message me about an uncle of hers who's going through it. And she's telling me certain things that the wife is doing. And I was like, stop right there. This is the beginning of most of my true crime books and my podcast. Like, that needs to be reported. There's just like certain things that when you hear it, you're like, that's not something we're going to joke about. To say like, my husband would rather kill me than divorce me.
Yeah.
It's going to stick with me, especially when that night I see a fight.
Yes.
They have some sort of altercation, not like, you know, punch them, drag them out, but like there is an altercation between the two of them.
And Tom like grabs her arm, I believe.
And they look like they're getting into it, but then like it ends.
Catherine like clocks
She punches him, and then he just like he goes to another room or whatever, and like the lights go out, and then that's it. Yeah. And the next morning, Catherine is gone.
Yes.
And Casey's trying to call Catherine. There's no answer. It's going straight to voicemail. And then, you know, instead of like just letting it go, because you don't really know these people that much.
And this is when you pick up the book and you play Monopoly with your neighbor and you just live your life.
Yeah.
Because
none of my business.
None of my business.
None of my business. I'm not getting involved. And I know some people will say that's a horrible thing.
Mm-mm.
But I just feel like if you really are concerned that something might be going on, maybe file a report. And then leave it at that. Could you go check on her?
Also, maybe stop drinking so then people will actually believe you.
And take you seriously when you have these concerns.
And take you seriously. And that's where Casey went the wrong way. And I was already kind of like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was already over the like, let's watch our neighbors through the window. Yeah. This alcoholic narrator. Yeah. I was just like, been there, done that. Mm-hmm. And it's not my favorite. And then she doesn't let it go. And I'm like, oh, Lord, here we go. And I was just like cringing when she's like, oh, I need to do this. Or, I was just like, oh my God.
The whole time I was waiting for it all to blow up in her face that like nothing nefarious had happened. She was making like, you know what I mean? Like she was making things worse. That's how it felt to me the whole read. I wasn't like excited for her. I was just like, oh, I'm waiting for something really like stupid to happen for her and ruin her life. So she calls like her assistant, which is her cousin or something. And the cousin is like, drop it, leave it. You don't know her.
She gets a cousin to go over to Catherine's apartment because Tom is like, oh, she just went back to the apartment in the city. And she makes her cousin go over. I don't know.
Yeah, and then she finds her on Instagram, and then she's like evaluating the Instagram picture, noticing that it's not a recent picture, it's an old picture because there's a calendar in the background. And then you can tell actually it was Tom that took the picture and not her.
From like a reflection in the tea kettle. And I'm like,
yeah, it's like
I can hardly see like zoom in on an engagement ring sometimes. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, how is she seeing this?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever zoomed in on someone's picture on Instagram.
It's hard.
I've never really cared to.
It's really difficult. Like I say, engagement ring is probably the only time I do it, or like whatever. But like, you have to hold it too.
Yeah.
Or else it'll like drop.
So the cousin says, actually, door guy says that she's not there.
She's never.
But, you know, who am I? Like, they could be lying to me.
Yeah. What? I don't know how things work, but I would not be. Especially like the doorman to a supermodel is probably not giving you like her whereabouts 24/7.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah.
So Casey takes this as like, I can't tell anybody else about this, but I need to find out and I need to start digging. It's wild.
And then it's just like the worst for me is Casey gets this bright idea. Like she can see Tom has left. She's going to go over to the freaking house. She's going to drive her. Wait, no, she walks.
Yeah, she walks.
She walks, gets in through, like, I imagine the downstairs, like a walk-in basement.
Yeah.
And granted, she does find some crazy things. She finds Catherine's cell phone in a drawer, tucked away, and she confirms because she calls it and it rings. And then someone calls Catherine, and so she like takes a picture of the phone number. She looks at their Google searches.
And there's some interesting things. They've searched her.
They've searched missing girls in the area because that's been a trend. They searched
some guy that went to a play that Casey was in. He tried to kill his wife by slowly poisoning her over time because he saw it in Casey's play.
Yeah.
And so now Casey starts thinking, oh my God, this is what Tom has been doing to Catherine. That's why she blacked out in the lake. That's why she hasn't been feeling herself. And so she's like, I got it. Like, he must have done something to her.
And you just know that, like, this is not going to go well. So, of course, she's there. Tom comes back. And then 2 seconds from being caught, Boone shows up and starts talking to Tom. So Casey hightails it out of there. Boone intersects her at some point on her way back and is like, you would have gotten caught if I didn't come over there.
Yeah.
And she was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is interesting because then Boone says, I was going to do it myself.
Yeah. So I think what we forgot to mention is that when she realizes that she was missing, she kind of woke up in the middle of the night thinking she heard a scream, but because she was so drunk, she just passed out and went back to sleep. But when she woke up, she was remembering, did I hear a scream? Was it a scream? And then she talks to Boone, and Boone says he also heard a scream. And again, like, he was like, there's something weird about the two of them, but now it's in his head. And what we find out is Boone is a former cop. And so you kind of have it like, are they actually seeing things, or are they just hanging on to a life or like things that, like, they, like, he wants so badly to be back in that life. She just needs a distraction. So it's like, if any of this actually happening. So they join forces. They call, like, an old former partner of his, and they tell her, without telling her that she broke into the house, but like, okay, this is what we feel, this is what we see. And the cop is like, this is nothing to go on.
Which I find very interesting, because unless Boone is so wrapped up in it, he should know before they call that this is not enough. They can't admit they broke in, or she broke in. They can't do it.
But they're just hoping, can you at least just talk to him and kind of get his story of where she is? Can we just confirm that Catherine is alive and well? Can someone just look for her? And the cop is kind of like, no, I can't just go to somebody's house unless, like, a family member or
we haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, like, really nothing that we can do. Just leave it alone. That's what she tells him. Leave it alone.
And then Casey all of a sudden is like, oh my God, I remember that the wine glass that Catherine dropped, that was in my yard, had something white on it. I'm going to pull it out of the trash. And you're just like, I was like, what?
Yeah. And it's just like, well, can you test this? See if there's some poison or whatever on it. So the cop's like, sure.
Yeah, just like appease them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's insane. So then I don't even know how they get to the point where...
Oh, because at that point, when she's like, okay, fine, I'll test this stupid thing. This is what seems very unbelievable to me. A lot of this book is unbelievable. But then this cop divulges...
That's what I was going to say. That's when it happens,
important information that the two of them do not need to know.
And you're telling a drunk...
And a former cop. And so basically she's got this really sensitive information about those 3 missing girls from the lake. And how, basically, I kind of took it like, one, she shouldn't have been telling them, but the other part was like, maybe she's telling them because they're like, listen, we already have our eye on this guy. So please stay out of it. Just know we're watching. We think he may be involved with these 3 missing girls.
Because Catherine and Tom have rented summer places across Vermont the last few summers. So they're like, interesting. He is kind of a common thread.
Someone sends a postcard to the police of Lake Green, and on the postcard it's written, the bodies are here.
Yeah, like they're here.
And they could tell that someone used their left hand instead of their right hand, and they feel like it is a female trying to cover up her writing. But they were wondering, now that Catherine is missing, was it Catherine who figured out what Tom was doing? That's what, like, the suspicion. So the cop tells these people, like, this really sensitive information in the hopes of, like, let us do our job, stop meddling.
Literally opposite.
Absolutely opposite.
They
As soon as she leaves, Boone is like, let's go.
Where one of the girls' family has like a little country store and ice cream place where she went missing.
Ridiculous.
And then there's the sister there. They get literally nothing from this interaction. Except that Casey buys a freaking ice cream pop that she doesn't like. That annoyed me.
And Boone tries to kiss her.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
It's just,
unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then essentially it just like, it finally gets to a point where things start rolling and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
But not rolling in a way I liked.
Or expected.
No.
So they get home from this ice cream date and she gets the sense that he wants to be invited in. And she's like, no, good night.
Yeah.
She goes home. She gets plastered. And she is bombarded by Tom, who's like banging on the door and basically saying, leave us the F alone, because the police went to go question him. And all she can focus on is the fact that he said, leave us alone. So now she's like, Catherine is alive. Passes out. Boone gets into her house via the basement. Kind of creepy. Gets her into bed. She wakes up the next morning. He's making breakfast, wearing her husband's like kiss the cook apron or whatever. And everything is just feeling a little weird. He's trying to like, I feel like he's trying to be like, you don't need to drink. And he's trying to make her feel bad for passing out the way and everything. He's getting a little too close too soon, I feel. And she's feeling that way too. And then she brings up the phone number that she saw on Catherine's phone. And she's like, I forgot that I have this. We should call it. And he's kind of like, maybe we don't do that. And she calls it, and it's his phone.
His phone starts ringing. And she's like, get out.
Yep.
And then she's convinced he killed his wife because she just like fell down the stairs one day.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, you definitely killed your wife. You have something to do with Catherine because your phone number popped up.
And you probably are the serial killer who killed all these women.
And now, you are the person.
And he's just like, okay, I'm out. And he leaves without like arguing with her. And he's just like, but again, I'm like, can she trust no one, or is she gone cuckoo nuts?
Yeah.
I think she's gone cuckoo nuts, to be honest. But for a moment as a reader, you're like, oh, wait, is Boone a bad guy? Because it is kind of weird that he's like trying so hard to ingratiate himself with her. And you're kind of like, but why?
Yeah.
So you do start to question that a little bit.
But then very quickly after, it's like that night or the next night, she's like, huh, what's that funny light in the woods next to the house where Tom and Catherine are? And then you're like, oh, Jesus.
Here we go. And then naturally there's like a hurricane coming or a tropical storm.
Which is super interesting because they talk about it hitting them. And then it's like, I really thought it was going to affect the plot a lot. It really didn't.
No. It was just a stormy night, like for like a creepy background.
Yeah. So she sees this light going into the house next door to the Royces, Tom and Catherine's house, who no one's living there. So she like waits for him to leave and goes. And you're like, oh my God, not again.
Yeah.
I forget how she gets into this house. Things probably unlocked at this point. Who freaking knows?
I think she goes like what Boone did with her house through the basement or something like that. There's like a window or whatever.
She gets in. She like hears something. She's like, for sure someone's in this house. She breaks into, I'm picturing her going into a basement again.
Yeah, like a cellar.
Like a cellar type thing. And oh my God, there's Catherine tied up to a sketchy bed. It's kind of gross in there.
Yeah.
And then naturally, who shows up?
Tom.
Obviously.
And
then this is where
all
hope I had, which went down the drain. And this is where I was like,
okay. So your hope went down the drain. I got intrigued. I wasn't expecting this. I love spooky ooky things. And my expectations started to get high. I'm like, oh, we're going supernatural now. Love it. I'm on board. How is this going to work out? With that said, it didn't meet my expectations. It just got weird. But I still gave it a good rating because it was fun for a moment.
Here's the thing. I gave this a decent rating too because like it was okay.
I gave it the rating because the twists and turns, I I wasn't expecting the twist and turn. So I like when I'm like, whoa, oh, okay. I was just unhappy with the way everything ended.
So basically, Tom's like, you gotta listen to me. This is gonna sound a little cray-cray, but
that's not Catherine.
That's not Catherine.
It's giving that right there.
Yes. Yes, it is. That's not Catherine. And Catherine's like laying on this bed, like chained up, like.
But Catherine is like smiling.
Yeah,
and like all creepy.
Not scared that Tom is there.
Mm-mm.
Tom's like, that's someone else in there.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what? And then, oh, it's your husband, Len? Len is inside Catherine's body. She started to get weird that day she almost drowned. Uh-huh. Things have escalated. I didn't know what to do. I'm just coming over to feed her some soup. She's freaking crazy now. And don't trust her. Don't
trust her. Don't trust anything that this person says.
So Casey's like, can you give me a moment to like talk to my husband? So Tom is like, okay, but don't listen to anything.
Don't untie her. Trust me on this one.
And then she's like, okay, I gotta prove that this is Len. So she starts asking questions and he's able to answer it. And then you get one of the biggest plot twists of the whole book, which I did appreciate this plot twist.
Yes, I did too.
And this is, I think, why I rated it so well, is that Len did not drown.
No, because first of all, he calls her C.
C.
And she's thinking, okay, well, maybe that was the only name that he called me. But maybe I dropped that somehow, somewhere. But then he says, but I also know you killed me.
Yeah.
Boom.
So Casey killed her husband in the water. He did drown.
He did drown.
And
then, this was a good reveal.
Then Casey's also like, oh, that's why you knew my phone number.
Yep.
That makes sense now.
Yep. And that's why you knew about the binoculars. That's why you made that comment.
Yeah. You slowly like, okay, this is making sense. But as I'm reading, I'm like, this is not making sense.
Yeah.
You can't go in the water and someone who's died in the water, their soul is in there. It's like a Dementor, I picture, but like reverse.
Yeah.
Like they're not sucking the soul out of you.
They're entering you.
I was like, what the? So then you get the whole story of why Casey killed Len, and it was because Casey found out that Len was actually a serial killer and had killed those 3 girls.
Yeah.
When they were spending their summer up there, and he was saying he was like going to LA and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I did appreciate that. I appreciated that plot twist.
Yes. So the way she finds out is it's a good twist. Like he asked her to get some matches, whatever, but he asked her to go get them from something he knows that if she looked a little further, she'd find the evidence. So he was kind of like playing with her.
He wanted to see, I think, if she would like confront him or say, like, it was weird.
Yeah. And she figures it out, and she makes some phone calls. I feel like she takes way too much time before going back to him, like to confirm if he was at these hotels or what.
Google.
Yeah.
She calls all these hotels.
Like, did he actually get there? No, he didn't.
Girlfriend, wait until 2 a.m.
Exactly. Like you hold on to this information. And then what does she decide to do is to drug him with like allergy medicine to the point that when they go out on the boat, she can push him over and he'll drown. And it's almost like, why not just go to the police?
And I think that goes back to which is ironic because it's like just messed up her life. Does it not go back to like her appearance?
Yeah.
Of like, oh, like I now have a husband who's a serial killer.
Yeah, and then people are always going to wonder how I didn't know.
But if he just dies from drowning, like,
then it's over. Yeah, and then it's over.
Yeah.
But then what ends up happening, he dies and everything, and she gets all this sympathy. But then she realizes that the family of these missing girls, they never get closure. They never find the bodies.
Out there, yeah.
And, now she has this immense guilt of like she did the wrong thing because she doesn't know where they're buried. Yeah. And, so now she's thinking, well, if he's really back, I can. And this is where it starts to get like, oh, like the supernatural thing was fun for me. And then it was weird. And so now it's like, well, if I can get him to tell me where the bodies are, then this will be worth it, and then I can kill him. But then, wait, I can't kill him because if I kill him, I'm killing Catherine.
So she like starts to untie him to a point where she still has restraint over him, like she's able. And then Tom comes out. He's like, "What did I tell you?" And then they got to take out Tom. And then it's like,
Tom.
"Len, get in the boat." And he's like, "Are you going to kill me again?" And then they go back to the house, ties him up to a bed in the house, and starts interrogating him with a knife. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
And then, like, poor Tom, they, like, shut him in that house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, kind of poor Tom, but, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, okay, where are the bodies, blah, blah, blah. And they have all these conversations. And it's weird because it's, like, Len speaking. I'm picturing, okay, this is stretch. The movie House Bunny, which is a movie about an old Playboy bunny who is now a sorority mom. It's the actress is good, and when she's being, and it's like this sorority that's like low on the totem pole.
Okay.
And when she like gets introduced to all the girls, she uses a really deep voice because it helps her remember their name. So she would be like, "Oh, my name's Megan," and she's like, "Megan," like, and so like that's what I was picturing. It's just like this deep voice coming out of a woman. It was just like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, it was strange.
But she finds out that the bodies are in the lake.
Mm-hmm. There's a very specific part of the lake where there's like this old tree that there was a name for the tree or whatever, and she's like, okay, that makes sense that it would be there.
Yep.
And then, like, I mean, we could go into the detail, but like, there's like a showdown. The power goes out because of the storm. Eli comes in the middle of like, because Tom gets loose, and he's attacking Casey. Not Tom, sorry, Len, aka Catherine, and is attacking Casey. Eli comes in, is able to constrain Catherine, tie her up. And this is the part where I was like, Eli just believes it. Casey tells him what's happening. He goes to talk to Catherine. Len tells, yep, that's what's happening. And Eli goes, it almost like, I forget what movie. I think it was like, oh my God, a stoner movie, Half Baked. He's like, I don't know why, man, but I believe him. So
That's literally what Eli is like.
Eli just believes what's going on. Is like, okay, what do we do?
So then it's like Casey, Eli, and Boone is in on, or maybe it's just Casey and Eli come up with this plan.
Yeah, because we find out Boone is like actually a good guy all along. Sorry, guy. Sorry, we accuse you of being a serial killer.
And they come up with this plan, but of course, like Casey's got her own little side plan that like Eli doesn't know about, and so she gets freaking Len / Catherine in the boat, and they go over to where the bodies are, and I don't really know what the original plan was supposed to be honest. Like what Eli thinks she's doing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
feel like there was no other thing to do, but what Casey's plan was like, just take me instead of her.
Yep. So it's gonna be like, I'm
let her go.
Get Len out of Casey's, or oh my God,
Len out of Catherine's body.
And then like sacrifice herself.
Yeah, so she ties herself to an anchor once Len is in her body, and like, we're just gonna die, and this will be the end of it. But somehow Len's soul leaves her because I guess it can sense that it's about to die, goes back into the water, and Catherine saves Casey. And they go back to the house, and all is good. The cops are there. Tom is like, oh my God, thank you for saving my wife. And they tell the cops all the things except for the supernatural stuff, and that like my husband was a serial killer and this is what I found. And the cop is just like, okay, we're going to leave some of these things out and we're going to close this case. It was very like the ending for me at this point. I didn't like how it was just like, just so, I don't know, it just seemed a strange way to end it. So we think everything is done. Casey's throwing away all her booze, trying to move on with her life. And then she remembers, wait a second though, but before Catherine drowned, she still was having these moments of like losing herself, blacking out. Why did she drown in the first place? And it goes back to being like, wait, I think Tom was still slowly drugging her. Like, he's still a bad guy. And so she tries to call Catherine to warn her, like, hey, don't drink anything. But somehow Tom is there in her house. And they struggle. And Casey gets Tom out of the house, or they take the struggle out of the house into the lake.
I was reading too fast at this point that I wasn't processing what was happening.
And I don't remember how she kills him, but I think it's like maybe it was like the glass from the bottle of wine. I don't know.
You could tell me anything, I'd be like, yeah, that's how it happened.
I'm pretty
sure. At this point, my pages were flying. I was like,
yeah. You're like, this is a little like,
yeah.
It got wackadoo. So she kills him in the water, and then
Len can have him.
Len gets him, and Casey's like, oh no, not again. And I think she slits his throat or something. She does something to kill him so that like it's done with. Cops arrive. I mean, it's wackadoo. So the worst part, I'm sorry for people who really loved this book, but the worst part is when we jump a little farther into the future. This seems ridiculous to me. Catherine and Casey are now BFFs. Mm-hmm. They all live together in Casey's house. Casey's with Boone. They've got this brand new relationship. They're celebrating New Year's Eve. Catherine has become almost extra famous for this and is going on all these talk shows about how she survived this marriage and how Casey saved her. And I don't know, like everything is just hunky-dory and they're like almost like a Thelma and Louise type situation. And Catherine is helping to save Casey's appearance in public, despite the fact that she was married to a serial killer, but then she was married to somebody who was trying to kill her. That's how it ends. They're just BFFs, and they bond over the fact that their husbands were evil.
Here's my thing. I'm selling the house.
I would never go back to that lake.
I'm finding a better lake that's clear. That
I think I would switch from lakes and I would go to a beach.
Anywho.
I would want nothing to do with that home. If you want to keep it in the family, fine, but somebody else can take care of it. I'm never going back there. Also, as Catherine, why would I move in with the girl that saved me? Like, yeah, let's be friends and we can trauma bond over this, but to live together?
So there were a lot, and here's the thing. There were a lot of books and things that compared to this, but I liked some of those other books and things that compared to this. This one was just, I don't mind supernatural stuff. I just didn't like this one. It was too much. It was too much to picture a soul in someone out. That was too much for me. Now, the drunk, unreliable narrator. Been there, done that. And I'm sorry. AJ Finn did a little bit better in The Woman in the Window, which you haven't read.
No, I haven't read that.
I like that one better for some reason. Don't come at me, but it's pretty highly rated, I believe. People really like it. It is a good one. And then one that I thought of was a book that happens to be by Alice Feeney, because I won't say. She did a supernatural twist, and I liked it a lot more.
Yeah.
It wasn't like soul sucking, I'm taking over your body type of stuff. It was like, what? But it was good.
Okay.
So I liked that. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Did not like. Don't come at me for that. I did not like it. It was like another, like, I think something's happening. Like, I don't know. It was just not for me. It's like at a building, an old building in New York, and it's like, it was just not for me. I read The Only One Left, the last one left, The Only One Left by Riley Sager.
That's on my list.
That one's okay. One's okay. I will be taking a while before I go back to Riley. You do have some interesting covers. I was intrigued by one the other day, and then I finished this and I thought, you know what? No.
We're gonna take a pause.
We're gonna go somewhere else for a bit. But here's the thing. Goodreads. I screenshotted, which my phone records this, so I can't. It was a 1-star review, and I agreed with them. The only thing that people love the supernatural aspect.
I love it. I'm going to tell you, I gave this book, as much as I have all these gripes and I complain, I gave it 4 stars because I loved the twists and the turns, and I love not being able to rely on her, even though she annoyed me. I liked that it was unreliable because I didn't know what was coming. And I could, the soul sucking thing, I am on board with that. What I would have loved is an open ending that didn't leave. I didn't want a happily ever after ending. I would have loved that, like, it got out of Catherine and then it got into Casey, and then like Casey disappeared and we just don't know. Leave it at that, because I just feel like with supernatural things, there is no really good way to end it where it feels realistic. I mean, supernatural things are not realistic.
But
so to like tie it in a bow and happy ever after, I don't like that. So with the supernatural ending, I like those open-ended, like, don't know, where did she go? What's going to happen?
And some of the higher ratings on here were saying that they knew going into this it had a supernatural aspect.
Gotcha.
So like someone had told them. Mm-hmm. So this one has a 3.59 star rating, which like isn't
pretty good for a mystery.
Now it's really hard. Oh, I think I found the review. It's really hard to find reviews on Goodreads that are actually just the review, because everyone just summarizes it. And I was like, okay, I read it. I'm reading. So this guy was the one I think I took the screenshot of, but I'm not really sure how to see the full thing. But okay, there we go.
What's their name?
Joey.
Okay, Joey.
But this was back in 2022.
Oh.
He said there are really no words that can adequately describe this book. The first 2/3 of the book was basically AJ Finn's The Woman in the Window, but set at a lake house to shake things up. Much like The Woman in the Window and The Girl on the Train, the woman who observes what she believes to be a crime in the book is drunk 24/7. And then he said, note to authors, from here on out, sober witnesses only. Thank you. He said the final 1/3 of The House Across the Lake is a cross between The Exorcist and the Meryl Streep movie Death Becomes Her. This is not meant as a compliment.
Oh, but I love Death Becomes Her. It's one of my favorite
needless
movies.
to say, I did not enjoy this book, but kept reading it just to find out how the author would tie it all together for a happy ending, and amazingly enough, somehow he did. So if you're in the mood to read about a crazy, nosy, murdering alcoholic helping a possessed neighbor who is in danger of being killed by her husband, who is later possessed before being killed by a woman who was formerly possessed by the spirit of her ex-husband, who she also killed, have at it. And I loved that. For me, I am moving on to a better book.
That is an amazing review.
That line, I was like, when you read it, like, that's accurate. Yeah. It is accurate.
Yeah.
And it's just so wild to read. And I thought that was so funny when I read that last night. And it was the only one that I took a screenshot of, because the other ones were just like kind of like, here's what happens in the book, blah, blah, blah. But that's a great review.
That's a great review.
I
still stand by my 4-star. I enjoyed the twists and the turns. I was reading it while getting my hair done, and it was fun. It was a fun read up until the end, where I was disappointed with the bow wrapping.
So I don't like ruin people's lives when I rate books. So for me, I'm always like a 3, 4, or 5. It was a 3 for me.
3.
It was like, meh.
Yeah.
It was one that I immediately put back on the bookshelf, and then I was also like,
what's next?
When time comes that I run out of room on this bookshelf, you will be the first to go to Goodwill.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't need this taking up space.
Wow, okay.
How I felt, and that's going to be strong. But
that is a strong feeling.
I don't know if I got rid of his other book too, but that one I did not like. But I don't know. The only one left was actually pretty good.
Okay.
So I felt, but
no, hey, everybody's got different feelings.
I like supernatural. I just didn't like the soul possessing part. That was just too much for me. I was like, You should read The Woman in the Window, though.
Okay.
Maybe not immediately.
No, I'll do.
You need to give it some time before you see an alcoholic.
Another
unreliable.
Well, I just finished reading The Fury, which was definitely an unreliable narrator. I would like to read something that is not unreliable. Like I'm a little like, it's fun because you don't know what's going to happen, but I'm ready for like to read something from the perspective of someone I can trust.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what comes next.
So sorry if you liked it and now you hate us, but
yeah,
there were good points.
Yeah, I picked this book up at Good on Paper, really from the suggestion of somebody who was in the bookstore who said this was her favorite book. And she did mention that there was a supernatural element.
Okay.
Now, and I was like, oh, I'm in. I love supernatural. So maybe that's why I knew it was coming. Although the funny thing is that as I was reading, I kept being like, where is the supernatural part? Like, when is that coming? And so when we got to the supernatural part, I was like, oh, okay. Like, it took me a minute, but I was like, okay, I can ride this wave. I can do that. But like I said, so I could deal with soul possessions. I'm into some weird things. It was just the way it ended, like I said. Yeah. So if you have other supernatural recommendations that aren't so hokey at the end, please let us know. I love a good...
Except the Ninth House. I cannot send you a podcast on that. That's a cross between fantasy and mystery, and I just couldn't comprehend a single thing that happened in it.
Really?
Oh my god, yeah.
Okay.
You might like it, but it was too much for me that if you asked me what happened, I could give you a 2-sentence summary. It was good. I felt like I liked it when I was reading it, and then I stopped, and then I was
had to think about it.
What just happened?
Interesting. Okay.
But that one I think is like it's in the fantasy section. Like it's very clearly out there.
Well, we had some questions on here that I feel like aren't even worth going through, to be honest, because it's like how did the book handle trauma, grief? It just touched upon it, and I feel like it was just a way of showing that people. I don't even know if there was like a theme, or it didn't feel very themey. It didn't feel like there were lessons in here other than don't become an alcoholic.
That was pretty much it.
Right? Yeah.
Both of them became an alcoholic. One got it together. One took the influence to get it together.
Yeah. So I didn't walk away with any lessons. It was just a fun read. Again, maybe a beach read, maybe a lake read. If you're on the lake, you can read this and have some fun with it. Just kind of go into it not expecting.
It was a quick read.
Yeah, not expecting to like have it blow your mind or like you love it, but it would just be a fun read.
Yeah.
It's funny. My hair place is calling me. So that's that. I enjoyed it. Kira, not so much. And that's how the cookie crumbles, I guess. I don't know what our next one is going to be. Our next recording, we're not sure what we're going to do yet. We'll talk about that later. But it'll be our last for a little while.
Yeah, which thankfully these are coming out a little staggered.
Yeah, we're staggering them every 2 weeks now instead of every week. And then what I think I'll do while Kira's on maternity is I might go back to some of our ACOTAR episodes and take some clips and kind of go through that, because I think people like the fantasy a little bit more.
I agree.
So we'll go back through that and kind of promote those episodes a little bit. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep reading. I am in Throne of Glass world. I am also thinking about getting Quicksilver. I've ordered Powerless. Don't know when it's coming. But, I'm just going to get a lot of reading done. I don't know how much reading you'll get done.
I don't know. I am really, I've read 18 books this year. My goal is always 25, which is, I cheat the system because I know I can do more than 25.
Exactly, same.
So I, went into this year, loading myself up so I knew I could meet this goal. So mine's probably going to simmer down quite a bit.
Although, I will say that when I was breastfeeding Dean, that's when I read most of my books. Because I did have it, on a Kindle. And so while he was feeding, I would just, because it was, so many hours, so many feedings. That's when I did most of my reading. I read a lot during nursing time.
But thankfully, Throne of Glass for me, I've done it. So we can do that. We've got that locked in whenever.
Yes, just be patient with us. We'll come back. Maybe we'll do some quick Instagram type videos instead of longer podcasts for the time being, because baby comes first.
Might be some solo ones of terror.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But yeah, I
You
don't
and
know.
Dean could review some like.
Well, Dean and I are reading the one and only Bob.
There you go.
Yeah, after the one and only Ivan. So maybe we'll do a little quick video. Cute. That would be cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, so keep your recommendations coming. Keep your comments coming. Happy reading, and we'll see you next time.